Hello everybody, welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Oana.
So today we're going to do a market comparison, the two largest cities in Nevada, which are Las Vegas and Reno.
Yes.
So we know a lot about these cities because we've lived in Vegas, we've owned a real estate brokerage here for quite some time. Also back around 2009 or 10, we were in the top 40 agents in Reno. And it's because we were getting bank-owned home listings up there. So we had to join the MLS, and we were actually listing properties in Reno for sale, even though we were physically in Vegas. But we had two workers up there who did all the stuff that had to be done in houses, lockbox, things like that. So we understand the market. Additionally, Juana, what's your background with Reno?
Well, I grew up in Reno, so Reno is kind of my hometown. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, college in Reno. I spent a good portion of my life in Reno, so I'm very familiar with Reno and the Reno real estate market. Okay,
so we got a bunch of slides we're going to go through here and talk about what's going on between the two cities. Really quick, before we jump into the slides, what are some differences between Reno and Vegas?
So Reno is a much smaller market, right? So if you're looking at Reno proper is about 250,000 people. Sparks, which is adjacent to Reno, is about another 100,000 people. And then Carson City, which kind of likes to get lumped with Reno when it's convenient and shuns Reno when it's not convenient, is about 50,000 people. So it's a much smaller market than Vegas because, of course, Vegas is over 2 million people. But of course, that's Vegas Metro, which includes Henderson, North Las Vegas, and that sort of thing. But Reno is a much smaller market. It is kind of sort of similar geographically in the sense that it's surrounded by mountains, kind of the way Las Vegas is. But of course, Reno is a much different type of town. Reno is primarily a college town. Reno has, broadly speaking, a higher educational level than Las Vegas. Of course, Reno has skiing, it has Lake Tahoe, it has all kinds of things that are different than Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas, we do have skiing, so we do have skiing at Mount Charleston, and we do have Lake Mead, but it is completely different. It's a completely different market. Reno's industry is a little bit different, while Las Vegas obviously brings in the lion's share of gaming revenue for Nevada. Las Vegas is gaming oriented more so than Reno is. Reno does have a lot of gaming, but it also has a lot of other industries. And one of the biggest things for Reno is that it is a college town. It is the university there has some pretty high-paying educational people, professors, administrators, that sort of thing. It's world-renowned for certain departments, like, for example, the School of Mines is world-renowned, and it's got a great medical school. It has the first judicial college that, way back when Sandra Day O'Connor attended that. So for those of you that are more our generation would remember who Sandra Day O'Connor was. First female Supreme Court justice. That's right. Appointed by Reagan. That's right. So Reno has a little bit different things going on, and then of course there's quite a bit of military in Reno, just like there was in Vegas. Of course, Vegas has Nellis Air Force Base. There's quite a bit of military and military research up in Reno. So Reno's a little bit different, but there are certainly similarities. The interesting thing about Reno is that Reno has always had a higher price point than Vegas. Always. Now remember when Reno, Vegas didn't exist till 1905, and actually Clark County wasn't even part of the state. This was actually the Arizona Territory still. When they first made the state of Nevada, the bottom third of the state wasn't even part of Nevada. It got annexed maybe about a decade later, but the state was literally Reno. I mean, it was that area, Virginia City and all that. Of course, Carson City is the capital of the state, but Vegas is obviously what everyone thinks of when you think of Nevada, because it's it's massive and it's an international city. It is. Yeah, Reno is smaller. It used to be the political hub of Nevada. Yep. And part of that has to do with historically, of course, the Comstock mine and that sort of thing, and so there was a lot of money there, and that's part of the reason why Reno was the political, and northern Nevada was the political stronghold of the state. But of course, as population shift and grow, Reno's population is much smaller than Las Vegas. So of course, Las Vegas by population is certainly much more politically powerful than Reno.
So we're going to jump in the slides, but one more interesting thing. Most of the state committees and the state things that are made by the state, they're required by law to be 3/5 from Southern Nevada. So you can't ever have a committee of like 5 people like the real estate commission. It can never be 3 people from Reno and 2 from Vegas. There's got to be 3 from Southern Nevada. You can have 1 from Pahrump, right? But 3 of them have to be from the South, because I don't know why. Probably because they're just afraid the North will take over and tell Vegas what to do. So, and we have more people down here.
Right.
Most of the legislatures comes from Southern Nevada.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the state, you have 4 representatives for just Clark County. You have 1 for the rest of the state, pretty much. That's the thing. Okay, we're gonna jump right into slides. Market Action Index. Now, as you know, a 40 is a normal market. Vegas is at 80. Reno's at 84. A slightly hotter market up there.
Right.
I think this is surprising. I would have guessed 70. Like, it's Reno, right? It's slower moving. They don't have, a little higher price point, but I didn't expect for the market to be as hot as it is, given the prices are where they are.
Right. But remember, Reno is really a bedroom community for the Bay Area, for the California Bay Area. Certainly there are a lot of people from the Bay Area that have relocated to Reno as they no longer have to necessarily work out of their office, so that they have relocated to Reno. Reno's a nice place to live. It does have a university. It does have some amenities. You've got skiing. You've got all kinds of fun things. So Reno is attractive to a lot of people. Okay,
so we're going to go look at some of the real time, and this was pulled today, so these are pretty accurate. Median list price for home in Vegas is about $600,000, which is pretty high. Actually, it's the highest it's ever been. Median list price, though, in Reno is $775. That's substantially more. Price per square foot there, $367. So they're not bigger homes; they're just more expensive homes. $271 down here. We're going to get into some of these other, but the other number is inventory, $275. And now remember, it's a smaller market, but there's only 275 single-family homes. These are just houses, and we have 1,500 in Vegas, which is huge. But proportionally, Reno is actually still probably a little bit of a hotter market. I mean, 275 is not many, even because it's like a fifth of the size. Right.
So 275 homes on the market, 250,000 people. That's not a lot of homes on the market.
It's not a lot of homes on the market. One interesting thing here is this median rent, which is $2,200 here. It's $2,200 there, basically. It's about the same.
Right. So you're paying more for a house there to purchase it, but you're renting it for the same amount that you're renting it for it here.
The next slide we're going to put up here is median list price. Now, I told you the numbers, so you're probably like, okay, why do I care about this? Well, it's the trend of the history that's important, because if you see on top is Vegas, it kind of is a nice, even, climbing, normal, real estate market, and then it's kind of picked up a little. If you look at Reno, it's a little flatter, meaning it picked up a little, but then it's basically been flat for the last 2 years. But it's still increasing. So now some of that may have to do with higher prices. It's a higher price thing, and higher price markets don't appreciate at a faster percentage rate, even though the dollar amount may be the same between the two markets because it's a higher baseline. Right? I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would expect to continue is that, I would say Las Vegas is where more people come that are just looking for rental properties, I think. But you also have a lot of people in Reno that have like second homes there. Like Oana said, it's a bedroom community. I know a ton of I think there's more airline pilots that live in Nevada that commute to California than live in California.
That's possible.
It's possible. If you're getting an early flight out of Vegas or Reno and you're going to San Francisco or LA, you'll see a ton of pilots and flight attendants because they only go to work once a week and they fly around for 3 days and come home. And if they live in Nevada, they don't pay the California taxes. They just pay Nevada zero, right?
Right.
So they all commute to work, 45-minute flight to get to work. So I would expect that to sort of be the trend. You'll see people up there with second homes that live in the Bay Area. You'll see people in Vegas that are buying investment properties.
Right. And not to say that there are not a lot of second homes in Vegas. There are a lot of second home in Vegas, particularly in the luxury market. I would say that is a tremendous number of second homes in the luxury market in Vegas.
The other thing too that both cities share is they're physically within the state, which means they're both part of a tax haven.
Right.
So it doesn't matter where you live in Nevada, you don't pay a state income tax. Okay, next chart we're going to see is inventory. What's interesting is these markets move together with inventory. The other interesting thing is, of course, Vegas is on top and Reno's on the bottom. But at the peak of the market back, 2 or 3 years ago, Reno only had 1,000 houses. But remember, that's a lot with 250, 260,000 people. And you can see down there how much it's dropped. It's dropped substantially. And the bottom on that chart is 0. The bottom on the Vegas chart's 1,000. So it looks like we have less, but we actually have 1,300. And that's in Vegas, just houses. And then if you get to Reno on the bottom, it looks like there's more, but there's actually less because it's 0 is the bottom line there.
Right.
Smaller inventory, smaller market. They've always had less inventory than us.
Well, which is normal. They've got a smaller population.
The market action index, I wanted to put this up here too. So the top is Vegas, bottom is Reno. This is the history of that number that's tracked. It's the fun, simple number that lets people decide, how hot the real estate market is. You can see both Vegas and Reno were about 40, which is, we talked about, that's a normal market. It's in I don't know why it's not 50, but Altos Research, who gives us these numbers, that's what they said, it's 40. And then if it gets over that, it's like more of a seller's market. And I imagine if we'd looked at that data 15 years ago, it would have been like a complete buyer's market, and market index would have been probably low. But you can see how the markets move together and how, it's pretty high. Now, if it goes back to 40, that probably is a soft landing. We don't know this because we've never been through this before. Like, what does the market action index look like? If it goes below 40, that's bad. It's probably a crashing market. So just because this number is high and it goes back to 40 doesn't mean the market crashed. It could mean it just settled down a little bit. We're hoping it does settle down a little bit this year as interest rates go up. And it'll do it. Whatever happens here is going to happen in Reno, but it'll just be more expensive in Reno.
So it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a client today, and he purchased a home literally a year ago, almost the day. And his mortgage is like 3.25. Right now you're struggling to get 5.25.
Yeah.
So So if you purchased a property last year when everybody said the market's crashing, you really did well, because not only did you lock in a whole bunch of appreciation over the last year, but even if there's a pullback on home values, you still have a fantastic interest rate. So congratulations if you purchased a home last year.
Yeah, and we know people that have locked this 9-year or 9-month lock where they paid some money and they locked the loan.
Right.
Which now looks like the smartest person in the world, because, hey, I want to buy in 6 months, but I need to lock in a loan, and which is good because I think the Fed just said they're going to raise it by 0.5 or 0.75 on the next. Yeah. They're going to get aggressive to try to stop inflation, and they need to. So, okay. We're going to look at market segments. This is a bit surprising here. So the top is Vegas and the bottom is Reno. You'll probably notice, now we had said on another video, we want you to guess which market the bottom quarter has 0 days on the market. And nobody said Reno, and this was not the market we were talking about. We were talking about another market. And we're going to do that video. It'll air probably in a few days. We have to put the video together and everything. But we already know the numbers for it. It's a 0. But Reno is a 0 too. And that low number is 455. It's pretty high. So basically what that says is that stuff in that bottom quarter, which is from 0 to halfway between 455 and 694, that's the bottom quarter. Those things fly, literally fly off the market. They're actually selling in coming soon status, which they have up there. They have coming soon status.
Right. So we have people that we know in Reno that are thinking of selling. So if you're watching this video, think about that.
Yeah, and we have an agent up there in our ReferralCloud network that's awesome. And she's done a ton of sales up there, just mostly listings. So if you need an agent in Reno, just let us know. We can use ReferralCloud and get you hooked up with that agent. The other interesting thing about this is the top end. So you see the top end of Vegas is that for 1.5 million. That number's been going up faster than all the other numbers, okay? I think last year it was like 895. It's up substantially. Now, also that's misleading. And the reason it's misleading and the reason some of the Vegas numbers are misleading is that home builders are tending to build more and more newer homes. So I want you to think about this for a second. You have a market with very few transactions happening. So every little thing has potential to move the market. And then on top of that, you throw in a bunch of luxury homes. And I mean $1 million, which is, it used to be 500,000 and above was a luxury home, right? And now it's $1 million. And I know that some of the people that watch the video blog have bought those $1 million homes. They're beautiful homes. And you're like, oh yeah, but in Seattle or in San Francisco or San Diego, these wouldn't be, the million, wouldn't be anything like this. They'd be a little dump, in Chula Vista or whatever, right? But it's unusual for Vegas. But it does create an imbalance when you have all these, luxury home builders, Tri Pointe and Toll Brothers and people who are building these. Hey, we're just going to start dumping $1 million homes into the market, and it skews the prices up. So it's like, oh, look at prices are going up. They're not really going up. Well, they are going up, but it makes it look like it's going up higher than it actually is.
Well, I think the other thing in Vegas is we've had a lot of developments where these are custom homes that are being built, and these are all multi-million-dollar custom homes. And then they're being built, and they're being built where they're paying $1 million or more just for the land, and then of course in the home is another $3, $4, $5 million. And then when these homes are churning, then these homes end up being $8, $10, $12 million. It's not unusual anymore to see homes in that price range, and it used to be completely unheard of. The idea that homes would sell in Las Vegas for $18 million was not something that was ever going to happen, and now it's happening more and more. So that's also playing with those numbers in the luxury market.
We had a year where only 10% of all sales were over 310. That was the magic number, and why that was interesting, because that was the previous median. When the market tanked, it was like 310. That was the median price, and the average was like 345. But that's still, 20 years ago it was 160, I think, and it went up, and that was the run up of the market. Okay, the other interesting thing about the market segments is that the high end in Reno is almost 1.9. It's 1.925, right? So it's almost 2 million, but the days on the market's less than Vegas. So you have more expensive homes on the market, a shorter period of time.
But part of that is because Reno has, relative to Vegas, a much smaller luxury market.
Yeah, it does. And so those homes are probably getting, this, and I don't know where people exactly are moving to Reno from, but my guess is Bay Area, and maybe LA too.
Right, mostly Bay Area, some LA. That's always been the split. I would say the split's always been 65-35, so 65% from Northern California and 35% from Southern California. Yeah.
The other interesting thing too is, it's all those people, tech workers, who were told, okay, we're just going to meet one day a week in the office, but we'll do the hours such that you can fly in and fly out. So people move to Reno because it's a short flight.
Right.
And that there's an early flight to San Francisco, and then from the airport, take the BART or take an Uber, you can get downtown pretty easily for your one day of work or whatever. But then when you're remote, you're living in Reno. They have some pretty nice areas there, and it's not.
Right, and the schools are good. It's a pretty calm environment.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So obviously, the Reno and Vegas are pretty far apart. If you live in the difference between Reno and Vegas is further than New York and Boston. like a lot further. Like it's basically Washington D.C. to Boston is about if you drew a straight line, that's about the distance. It's pretty far, and you're like, what? That's like, there's like 5 states in between there, and one of them's Pennsylvania, a pretty big state. As you go through all these states, yeah, it is. It's pretty far, but it's most people don't even really drive it. They'll just get on Southwest and fly up there because it's an hour flight. But
it's also interesting that Reno and Las Vegas are culturally very different too.
Yeah. Reno is, it's interesting in the state because you have Vegas, which is Sin City and glitz and all that, casinos, showgirls. And you get to Reno, and Reno is more like, it does have the casinos, and you do have that sort of, when you're in the places, it's like Vegas, but even with that, it's still not Vegas.
No, Reno is much more conservative, much more, it's just a whole different vibe than Vegas.
Yeah, and it's different from like Elko and Ely and Wells and other parts of the state where it's literally cattle ranching, agriculture, and mining.
Right.
And even, if you don't have to go that far north of Vegas to start running into that. About an hour out of the city, you'll start seeing,
ranches,
yeah. Cattle. They're mining about 2 hours north, big mines. Yeah.
So just very different cultures between Reno and Vegas, very different markets as far as real estate is concerned, much different population sizes. Vegas, of course, over 2 million people, Reno, about 250,000 people. Both of them have luxury markets, but Reno is a hotter market and is a more expensive market.
Yeah, it is. And if there is a downturn, I imagine that Reno would do better because they did better in the last downturn. When we were selling the bank-owned homes here for like $130, the comparable home up there we're getting about $245 for. Because we had a bunch of those that were kind of right in that, size. And they were all in the city of Reno. Some of them were in, Carson City and these, Sparks and these sort of outlying. There's a bunch of little towns.
Right. So that a lot of it that has to do with that Reno is a much more stable environment, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't rely as heavily on tourism as Las Vegas does.
And it also doesn't have Vegas has grown every year, and so has Reno, but Vegas had the building boom. Right. And Reno didn't have it. They did build quite a bit up there, but it wasn't anything like it was in Southern Nevada.
Right. And traditionally there's been more speculation in Southern Nevada than in Northern Nevada.
Right.
So if you like the video, if you are from Reno and you know more about the market than we do, which would not surprise us, please leave us some comments. We'd love to know more on a micro level what's going on in Reno. If you are from another market and you would like us to compare your market to Las Vegas, let us know. We'll get educated and we'll compare them. Please like the video, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.